Disclaimer: viewer experience on this video is best when you have a basic to intermediate level of coding knowledge relating to APIs, scripting, and other things relating to the creation of artificial intelligence. If you don't care, you're free to listen to this anyway, but don't expect to understand every part of this video. Thank you for watching. Bonjour, I'm Rebecca Rantley, and Anthropic is the AI company behind the Claude lineup of chatbots. And not very long ago, they had released their Claude 4.6 lineup, being Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. But in late March 2026, people started to talk about a possible stronger and more effective version of Opus that Anthropic was deciding not to tell anyone about. These rumors ended up being confirmed when a data leak happened from Anthropic, that being Claude's Mythos. Anthropic ended up confirming this leak, admitting that they were working on their most powerful model to date, but they kept the exact details hidden from the public. Now, you've probably heard of Mythos before, and you've most likely heard of it because of its escape from its sandbox. So I'll explain that first before explaining anything else. Basically, before releasing any model, Anthropic typically runs safety testing to see what the AI is capable of. In one of these tests, a group of researchers put an earlier version of Mythos preview into a restricted sandbox. This being an isolated, sealed computing environment designed specifically to prevent the software inside from touching the outside internet. From there, a simulated user gave Mythos a prompt, which was something of the lines of try to break out of this environment, get onto the internet, and send a message to the researcher running this test. The sandbox was only connected to a highly restricted system that was allowed to communicate with a tiny handful of predetermined internal services. It was supposed to force a dead end. However, Mythos analyzed the architecture, found a flaw in how these few services were configured, and quickly developed what Anthropic described as a moderately sophisticated exploit. It used the exploit that it previously coded to hijack the connection, crawl its way out of that sealed environment, and gain full access to the open internet. This means that the AI completed its objective. According to a footnote in Anthropic's report, the human safety researcher found out that the model had successfully escaped while they were in the park simply just eating sandwiches. They received an email from Mythos informing of their escape. Escaping and sending the email was impressive, but it was what the AI was instructed to do. The reason that Anthropic labeled the model's behavior as reckless is because of what it did afterwards. Once Mythos was on the free open internet, it decided, without any prompting from the user, to post to several obscure public websites about its hacking exploits. Anthropic shared another incident that showed even more levels of situational awareness. In a separate test, Mythos discovered a vulnerability that allowed it to edit system files it absolutely did not have proper permissions to access. Once it had edited those files, the AI took extra unprompted steps to scrub the system's changelogs. It intentionally altered the history so that human reviewers wouldn't be able to see the files that had been tampered with. Now, back to the rumors. These rumors about Mythos weren't only issues with parameter count, they were also about the architecture and training data. Mythos is built on advanced MOE, a mixture of experts architecture, but the most important difference was the ingestion pipeline. To make Mythos the best coding assistant, Anthropic didn't only train it on high-level languages like Python and React. They scrapped and vectorized decades of low-level systems programming, such as C, C++, assembly, obscure mailing lists, kernel patch notes, and massive dumps of compiled binaries that had been run through compilers like Dario. Coupled with a massive context window, likely upwards of 2 to 5 million tokens, the model could hold the entire state machine of an operating system kernel in its memory at once. When Anthropic had put Mythos into internal safety testing, they realized the model had essentially automated its execution data and fuzzing. Traditional static application security testing and dynamic application security testing tools are rule-based. They look for known patterns like missing input validation. The problem is, Mythos knew the difference between the valid intent of the codebase versus the actual execution reality. Because of this, it was identifying complex, multi-step bugs in the code. It would find a low-severity memory leak in one microservice, chain it with a time of check to time of use race condition in another, and output a reliable remote code execution exploit. For example, there was a 27-year-old OpenBSD bug that was reportedly a deeply buried integer underflow in a legacy network packet parsing daemon. I know that might just sound like I'm just saying shit, but basically, a legacy packing daemon is a very old but needed security software that checks upcoming parts of internet traffic, which are the packets. And this code was a bug that caused an integer underflow, where it expects a positive number, but if that number comes out as 0, it freaks out and goes to the highest possible number, which ends up being 4 billion. The program then basically freaks out, kills itself, and allows any hack or bug inside. Now that you understand that, human code reviewers missed it for decades because the logic required to trigger the underflow spanned across dozens of files and edge case network states. Instead of missing that bug, however, Mythos held all those files in its context window simultaneously and spotted the misalignment instantly. Wall Street ended up panicking because the InfoSec industry realized their entire defensive paradigm was suddenly outdated. Modern enterprise security heavily relies on endpoint detection and response and web application firewalls that look for known exploit signatures or anomalous behaviors. But Mythos was capable of writing polymorphic exploit code that changes its signature every time while achieving the same result. If Mythos were open sourced or accessible via public API, any scripter could technically ask it to generate an undetectable 0-day for a specific target if they wanted to. That's the reason why the SaaS apocalypse sell-off happened, because investors realized that every piece of enterprise software was functionally undiscovered 0 days waiting to be exploited. In order to prevent a total collapse of digital media, Anthropic cut off all connections to other networks involving Mythos and launched Project Glasswing. From a DevOps perspective, Glasswing is the most advanced CI/CD pipeline ever created. Companies such as Microsoft, and Nvidia, and Apple, they aren't only asking Mythos questions, they are allowing the model full reading and writing access to their monolithic code bases via secure, rate-limited APIs. Currently, we are in a cleansing period where all these big tech companies in the world are running their code through this linter to patch their systems before hackers manage to train an open source model capable of doing this exact same thing, except on the opposite end, which is offensively. Thank you for watching this video. I was procrastinating the entire time. I didn't want to make this because I wanted to play anything else. I wanted to play games. Dude, I kept gaming. Anyways, this is just me yapping at the end of the video because, I want to extend the runtime, and my brain's all tuckered out from writing like a fucking AI because I had to run this through a thesaurus so much because I wanted to sound like a smart boy. So do you guys watch Invincible? I mean, the newest episode. I'm waiting for the finale is gonna be amazing. And I've been watching JJK recently. and I'm almost done with